Welcome to the dark side of love. Tonight, we're stepping into a story that unfolds in the quiet corners of a hotel room, in the flicker of a bowling alley neon, in the tired eyes of a mother trying to find herself again. A story that begins with pancakes and ends with a revelation I never saw coming. I thought I was just going to a tournament. I thought I was just bonding with my son. But what I walked in on froze me in place, not because of fear, not because of shame, but because for the first time in years, I saw the truth, and it shattered the version of reality I had been clinging to for far too long. This isn't just about what happened in that room. It's about what happened to me and how one moment forced me to confront the lies I'd built my life around. Let's begin. Part 1. The quiet unraveling. It all started in the stillness of the night. I was 49 years old, divorced, and drifting through life with a quiet ache I couldn't quite name. My teenage son was growing faster than I could keep up with, taller, moodier, quieter. And me? I was caught in the rhythm of survival. Working the night shift as a nurse is a special kind of exhaustion. It's not just the physical toll of being on your feet, responding to emergencies, or comforting those in pain. It's the way it robs you of time. Time with people, time with sunlight, time with yourself. Each evening, I stepped into fluorescent lit corridors filled with groans, alarms, and whispered prayers. And each morning, I came home to a silence so heavy, it felt like grief, sleep, work, repeat. That was my life. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped noticing how lonely I'd become. But then unexpectedly, quietly something shifted. Bowling. Yes, bowling. Not the most glamorous escape, I know. But when a colleague mentioned a local league looking for new members, I said yes. Not because I loved the sport, but because I needed anything that reminded me I was still a person with interests. Not just a caretaker on autopilot. At first, it was awkward. I hadn't held a bowling ball in years. I was rusty, clumsy, but I kept showing up, and slowly, I got better. Good, even within months. I qualified for a regional tournament, a 3-hour drive away. It didn't feel like much to the outside world, but to me, it was monumental. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself. Alive. But here's the thing about motherhood. No matter what milestone you reach, there's always that voice asking, what about your child? And lately, my son had been slipping through the cracks. Part 2. A fraying connection. He wasn't a bad kid. Not at all. But he had started changing in ways I couldn't quite read. He grew distant. His once bright eyes dulled by something I couldn't name. One afternoon, his friend crashed a bike into our garage door, denting it badly. They laughed. I didn't. He brushed it off, and I felt something crack between us. So when the tournament came up, I made a decision. I booked a hotel for both of us near the venue. Maybe a change of scenery would do him good. Maybe it would do us both good. The hotel was simple, but warm. A small indoor pool shimmered like an oasis under soft lights. We arrived in the early evening, unpacked, and I ordered him room service burgers and soda. He grinned like a kid again. It had been a long time since I'd seen that look. The next morning, I tiptoed into his room. He was curled under the blankets, messy hair fanned across the pillow. My heart swelled because no matter how old they get, there's something fragile about watching your child sleep. I nudged him gently. Pancakes, I offered. He groaned, half asleep. With syrup, of course. He smiled. Part 3. Breakfast, connection, and a glimpse of who we were made our way down to the hotel dining area. Modest space, softly lit by morning sun filtering through large windows. The scent of coffee and maple syrup drifted through the air. mingling with the low hum of conversations. The buffet was simple but comforting. Golden pancakes stacked high beside fluffy omelets. Crispy bacon, fresh fruit laid out in cheerful bowls. My son beelined for the pancakes, drowning them in syrup like it was a sacred ritual. I opted for a vegetable omelet and a black coffee, my usual shield against the fatigue. That never quite left me. We sat down by the window, and for a few moments, we were just a mother and son. No tension, no misunderstanding, just two souls, eating breakfast, sharing quiet smiles. There's something about breakfast that softens the heart. Maybe it's the simplicity. Maybe it's the act of starting fresh. Between bites, I asked, "Anything you want to do before I head to the alley?" He looked up from his plate, maple syrup glistening on his fork. "There's a gaming store in the mall nearby," he said, almost cautiously. "They might have something I've been looking for." His voice trailed off like he didn't want to ask too much. But that sparkle in his eyes, it was rare lately. And it reminded me of the little boy who used to run into my arms after school, chattering about dinosaurs and dragons and dreams. "Let's go," I said without hesitation. Part 4, the mall. The game, and a fragile Smilith mall was alive with its usual chaos. Teenagers loitered in clusters, couples walked hand in hand, and toddlers clung to strollers with juice-stained cheeks. It was the sound of life humming along. We walked in, side by side. For a while, we didn't speak. We didn't need to dot at the gaming store. He made a beeline to a particular aisle like a bloodhound with a scent. Then I heard it. "Oh my God, they have it." He held up the game like it was treasure. I checked the price, nearly $60. For a moment, I hesitated. Not because of the money, really, but because I'd been stretched so thin, emotionally and financially, for so long, that I had forgotten what it felt like to say yes without calculation. But then he looked at me. That look, hopeful, grateful, unsure. I handed over my card. And the moment his fingers closed around the game case, I swear I saw the boy he used to be. He whispered, "Thanks, Mom," in that quiet way kids do when they mean it. And just like that, the guilt over the price melted away. Part 5, a day of wandering and remembering. After we didn't rush. We wandered the mall, weaving through crowds without direction. He stopped at a sneaker store to admire shoes way out of our budget. I watched him from a distance, taller than me now, his features sharpening, his voice deeper. He was growing up, faster than I was ready for. We shared a pretzel, talked about old cartoons, laughed at a cheesy photo booth picture we almost took, but didn't. For a while, we weren't mother and son tangled in teenage rebellion and parental exhaustion. We were just people. Connected. For a few hours. I forgot about night shifts and bills and broken garage doors. I forgot about being tired all the time. I just remembered what it was like to feel something other than responsibility. Part 6, the bowling tournament victory in defeat. The time I returned to the bowling alley. My feet were tired, but my spirit was light. The tournament was in full swing. Pins clattered. Crowds cheered softly. There was a rhythm to it all, a strange, satisfying poetry. I bowled my heart out. Frame after frame, I pushed through the fatigue, riding the high of the morning. For a while, I held second place, but then one bad shot, one lapse in focus. I dropped to fifth. It stung. I'd worked so hard. But as I stood there, ball in hand, looking down the lane, I realized something. I wasn't here for the trophy. I was here because I had started choosing me again. And that in itself was a win. My friend Sarah, brilliant bowler with nerves of steel, took home the top prize. I cheered louder than anyone. Part 7, the celebration, the tavern, and the truth that began to unfold that night. Sarah and a few league members invited me to a small tavern just across from the hotel. It wasn't fancy dim lighting, wood-paneled walls, and a jukebox stuck on 90s hits, but it felt warm. Familiar. We laughed, shared stories. I even had 2 glasses of wine instead of my usual one. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere outside my job or my home. It was close to 1 a.m. when I walked back to the hotel. The room was dimly lit by the soft flicker of the television. My son was asleep, sprawled across the bed, one arm dangling off the side like he'd melted into dreams mid-sentence. I stood there for a moment, watching him. The boy who once needed me for everything. The young man learning how to need me in different ways. There was a quiet in that room, something sacred. Part 8, 3 a.m., the moment that shook me around 3 a.m. I heard him stir. I rolled over, instinctively alert. He was whispering. At first, I thought he was talking in his sleep, but the tone was clear, intentional, awake. I couldn't quite make out the words, just fragments. Can't believe it. Saw them. My heart thudded. I sat up slowly, listening. Then I heard it. One name. A name I hadn't expected. It wasn't a friend. It was my ex-husband. His father. I froze. Part 9. 3 a.m. The shattering whisper stayed completely still, propped on one elbow, holding my breath, heart pounding. My son wasn't asleep. He was speaking. Not to me, not to anyone I could see, but clearly, painfully, to someone on the phone. The TV was flickering low, just enough light to silhouette him. I told you I saw them, Dad, he said, voice low but urgent. My breath caught. Dad, my ex-husband, and I had divorced years ago after a long, drawn-out unraveling of what was once a marriage, and then became a cold business partnership of co-parenting and tolerance. We didn't speak unless we had to. So hearing his name, hearing my son on the phone with him at 3 a.m. wasn't just unexpected. It was suspicious. And then, the words that stopped time. They were kissing. Dad, I saw Mom with him at the hospital. It wasn't just work stuff. What? My brain went static. Who was he talking about? I tried to piece it together, but everything felt warped like a jigsaw puzzle made of fog. He continued, his voice tight with emotion. She lied to me. You said she wasn't seeing anyone, but I saw her. You didn't even believe me. And now, she brings me on this fake trip. Why would she do that? I felt dizzy, kissing someone. What was he talking about? And then a memory. A colleague at work. A kind, quiet doctor who had helped me during a grueling shift 2 weeks ago. He'd offered me coffee, walked me to my car. We talked. Yes, we had shared a moment. A connection I hadn't expected. We hugged. And yes, there was a kiss. Brief, gentle, but not a betrayal. Not in my mind. I was single. I had been for a long time. I thought no one had seen us. Apparently I was wrong. Part 10, the morning after. Truth in the silence. When I awoke later that morning, my son was already up, sitting quietly on the edge of his bed, controller in hand, eyes locked on the screen, but clearly not playing. I sat up, my head aching not from the wine, but from the weight of what I'd heard. Morning, I said. He didn't answer. Not at first. Then finally. Why didn't you just tell me? My stomach dropped. I swung my legs off the bed, hands resting on my knees. Tell you what? He didn't turn to me. That you're seeing someone. That you've moved on. That I'm the only one who hasn't. His voice cracked not with anger, but grief. And it hit me. He wasn't angry that I had kissed someone. He was angry that I had a life he wasn't part of. Part 11. What the kiss really mean to you? Took a deep breath and walked over to the window. Outside, the morning was golden. Birds were pecking at crumbs near the sidewalk. A family with kids was loading their car for what looked like a vacation. I didn't lie to you, I said softly. But I didn't tell you the truth either, because I didn't know what it meant. It just happened. He said nothing. I turned to look at him. I haven't been with anyone in years, not since the divorce. I've spent every minute working, worrying about money, worrying about you, trying to stay afloat. His eyes flicked toward me just barely. And then one day someone was kind to me. Just kind. Not loud, not charming. Just noticed me. And I let myself feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. He swallowed hard. I wasn't trying to hurt you, I added. But maybe I should have told you sooner. Maybe you deserve to know I'm still a human being, still figuring things out, just like you. That was when he finally looked at me fully, and in his eyes, I didn't see judgment. I saw confusion, sadness, but also something else. Understanding. Part 12. His secrete. Sighed and set the controller down. There's something I didn't tell you either, he said quietly. I froze. Last year, he continued, when I started hanging out with Nate and the others, I wasn't just skipping class. I wasn't just getting into trouble. My stomach tensed. I started going to see Dad. Without telling you, the words hit like ice. What? Every other weekend, after he moved closer, I'd say I was staying at Nate's, but I'd go to his place. Sometimes he'd let me stay. Sometimes we'd just talk. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to hurt you. I stared at him, not because of what he did, but because I suddenly realized he had been searching for his father, and I had been trying to find myself, and in the gap between those two journeys we had lost each other. Part 13. The real infidelity. That was when the real betrayal surfaced. Not his, not mine, his father's. I thought he was getting better, my son whispered. But he's still lying. He still disappears for days. Still makes promises and breaks them. But every time I think about cutting him off, I can't. I walked over and sat beside him. That's because he's your dad, I said softly. And no matter how many times he lets you down, there's a part of you that still wants to believe in him. He nodded. We sat in silence. And that's when it hit me. The infidelity in this story wasn't sexual. It wasn't a kiss behind a hospital building or a secret phone call. It was the emotional betrayal of a father who was supposed to protect his son and didn't. It was the quiet guilt of a mother who spent so much time surviving. She forgot how to be vulnerable. It was the lie we both told ourselves, that we were okay when we weren't. Part 14. Bowling alleys and new beginnings. Later that day, I returned to the bowling alley. I didn't bowl to win. I bowled to breathe. To let the weight of the past roll down the lane and crash against the pins like thunder. My son came with me. He didn't want to play at first, but by the third frame, he grabbed a ball. And when he knocked down his first strike, he smiled. A real one. And that was all I needed. Part 15. Closure. Back at the hotel. As we packed our bags to leave, I asked him one simple question. Are we okay? He didn't answer right away. But then, he nodded. We're getting there. And in that moment, I knew. That was enough. Not perfect, but real. Alro. The dark side of love life doesn't always fall apart with screaming or silence. Sometimes it crumbles in whispers, in 3 a.m. phone calls, in half-eaten pancakes and missed chances, but healing, that starts in the same way. In soft truths. In shared glances. In finally letting yourself be seen. If you've ever felt like you were losing your way in the middle of life, if you've ever sat awake at night wondering if your child is still your child, then maybe this story was for you. Not because we have all the answers, but because we're still trying. And that, sometimes, is enough. Thank you for watching. This has been The Dark Side of Love.